Module 3, Lesson 16, we're going to move into working with symmetry along the different axes. So the definition of symmetry is that it just means the same on both sides. So something that is symmetrical looks the exact same on both sides. So we're going to be looking at the coordinate plane and doing the same thing. The most common way you're going to hear about symmetry is they're going to ask you to rotate over an axis. So right here we have an example of rotating over the x-axis. So the x stays the same, but the y is opposite. And that's when you're talking about the ordered pair. So if you look here, here's my point, 3, 4. And then they said rotate over the x-axis. So I needed to go over the x-axis and find my exact opposite point. So this one was 4 units away from the axis here because it was up at 4. So that means it has to be 4 units below, which would be -4. But I'm still staying where the x is 3. So we went from 3, 4 to 3, -4. So my y became the opposite sign. My next one, if they ask you to rotate over the y-axis, your y will stay the same, but your x is the opposite. So here's your example. My first point was at 3, 3. I rotate over the y-axis. It then becomes, I'm at -3 and still 3. And so you see here, my first number is the one that changed because I was moving over the y-axis, which means my x would change, and my +3 became a -3, with my y remaining the same. So let's go ahead and look at lesson 16. So it says, gives an example of 2 opposite numbers and describes where the numbers lie on the number line. How are they opposite numbers similar? How are they different? So we've talked about this quite a bit. Opposite numbers are the same distance from 0. They have the same absolute value. They are on opposite sides of the number line. So those are your things to remember. They're the same distance from 0, same absolute value, and they're on opposite sides of the number line. Now, if a coordinate plane, it's going to be a little bit different because you're going to be opposite sides on the x or opposite sides on the y. So below, we have examples for you to begin working with. So locate and label your points on the coordinate plane to the right for each given pair of points in the table below. Record your observations in the appropriate cell. Pay attention to the absolute value of the coordinates and where the points lie in reference to each axis. So, first point, 3, 4. Start here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And -3, 4. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what are the similarities in the coordinates? My y is the same, and they are both above the x-axis. And both are 3 units from the x-axis. Their differences: one is in the first quadrant, one is in the second. So they're in different quadrants. Now let's go to this one here. They have us keep going over here. We're going to stick here. We have a 3, 4. So 3, 4, which I already have. And then we have a 3, -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one, their x is the same. They are to the right of the y-axis. and both are 4 units from the x-axis. Which leads me to see a mistake here. This should be the y-axis, because this one's the y, and that is 1, 2, 3 away, and 3 away. And again, different quadrants. One's positive, one's negative, so my y's are opposites. And then this one, my 3, 4, negative 3, negative 4, negative 3, negative 4. So we have quadrant 1 and 3, both x and y, the x's and the y's are opposites. And they're the same distance from the x and y axis. So if you can see, this one is 1, 2, 3, 4 away from the x-axis. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4 away from the x-axis. This one is 1, 2, 3 away from the y. And this one is 1, 2, 3 away from the y as well. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started down here on the exercise. So they give you 4 different points, and they actually already graphed them for you. So we have 5, 3, which is my S here. So here's your S, 5, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. Negative 2, 4 is negative 2, positive 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we call that B. And then I have 3, negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. That one will be C. And then this one will be D, negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 5. All right. The given point is reflected across the x-axis. So we have 5, 3S is reflected across the y-axis. So this is 1, 2, am I correct? The x-axis. So here's my x. 1, 2, 3 to x, 1, 2, 3. So M would be my point, and the coordinate would be 5, negative 3. Now, the given point is reflected across the y-axis. So now I have to go across the y. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away from the y. So it has to be 5 on the other side too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would be my L. And the coordinates are negative 5, positive 3. So what I want you to be looking at is this trend here. So this one, my first number stayed, second number was opposite. This one, my first number was opposite, but my second number changed. Now, the given point is reflected first across the x-axis. Well, to go across the x-axis, like it showed here, we went to M. Then across the y-axis. So I'm down here, and I went across, after I went across the x-axis, now I have to go across the y, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that takes me to the A. Now, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. So that's negative 5, negative 3. So if you notice this one, these are both positive. For this one, they're both negative. So for this one, we found the opposite of both of them. For this one, it was just the opposite of the first number. And for the first one, it was the opposite of the second number. And my last point, the given point is reflected first across the y-axis, that would be my L, and then across the x-axis, which takes me back to A, which has me find the opposite of both numbers. So this one was the opposite of y. This one was the opposite of x. This one was the opposite of x and y. And this one is also the opposite of x and y. So you're going to do that for all of them. So the given point is reflected across the x-axis. So I have my b, which is right here. My x-axis is right here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. So then again, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to draw a line so I don't forget. So this point here is -2, -4. And when I look, and this said the opposite of y, so I'm going to look, my opposite of y would make this positive and negative, and the first number stays the same. So that point is true. The given point is reflected across the y-axis. So I'm here and I have to go across the y-axis. That's 1, 2, and then 2 again, which would have me +2, +4. And so if I look over here, first number I found the opposite, where my second number stayed the same. So right here it said the opposite of the x, which is true. I only found the opposite of the x, but my y stayed the same. Right here, the given point is reflected first across the x-axis, then across the y-axis. So my point here is first across the x-axis and then across the y-axis, which takes me right here because it goes 2, so I have to do 2 again, +2, -4. So if you look here, my x, I have the opposite, and then my y, I also have the opposite. So it's a positive and a negative, where this one was originally a negative and a positive, which is what I have written here, the opposite of x and y. So you find them both, and this would be the same as well, which makes us a nice rectangle. Now I'm going to have you work with someone and do C and D. I will check those, and then we will move you on to the problem set.